Hi guys, so it's Nicolette again, and today I want to talk about the step where you actually now go out and look for a home loan or some sort of funding for them to fund you for this house that you have now found, right? So basically, when you're looking to get a home loan, you can get it in two ways, right? There you can go directly to the bank, or you can use a bond originator. Now, don't be like me, Nicolette, using a bond originator, and then it happens so that this bond originator underestimates or overestimates your finances, and somehow you're sitting with a problem. And I'll give you guys an example or a story of how this happened to me. So after I had signed my OTP, and I realized that actually I cannot afford this home loan, my bond originator said to me, don't worry, I will get you a home loan. I will make sure that the banks give you a home loan, because we as bond originators have a better relationships with the bank, and we know where to tweak and where to kind of like amend so that it looks like you can actually afford a home loan. And that for me should have been the first red flag, to understand that if a bond originator needs to make tweaks and amendments so that they can make sure that I can actually afford a home loan, that means that it already is a problem. But in any case, I handed over my information, which were my FICA documents, my 3 months bank statement, my pay slip, my proof of residence, to this lady, and she went out to the different banks to go and find me a home loan. So now the home loan I was looking for at that time was I think I was looking for a home loan of 2.2 million rand, if I'm not mistaken, or it was somewhere around that reach, 2.8 million rand actually, as a matter of fact. And the banks that I had gone to previously to speak to say, do you think I will be able to afford this loan, told me, you know what, you don't actually really afford that loan, or even if you did afford it, it really would take up all your salary or your disposable income, and you would actually live a very uncomfortable life, and you probably might not even be able to buy furniture or be able to service the house in terms of having a gardener, having somebody clean your pool, having somebody cleaning the house. So I would decided, you know what, actually this is not going to work. But I had signed the OTP. So in the OTP, it says that if I do not if I'm not successful at getting my own home loan, I then need to hand over my documents to a bond originator that they hire, and they will then go out and look for this loan for me. So this lady went out and got an approval from one of my banks, and their bank pushed out an approval based on 30 years. So and I was gonna end up paying 8 million rand for a home loan of 2.8 million after 30 years, and I flat out refused. But I could not understand how one bank out of all the banks had approved this loan. So I went back to the banks to say, let me understand how you guys got here. And the bank rightfully explained to me that the home loan, the first step of the home loan, is not actually pushed out even by human beings. It's pushed out by the machine. So whatever it is that you or the bond originator inputs into the system, that's what the system will then do, use that information and push out a result. So basically, I got a result before even the credit guys had actually checked out this home loan deal. So I said, no, there's something that's still seriously wrong here, because when I do it on the calculators, I get a different result altogether. So then I asked them, please can you show me what the bond originator submitted to you? When I got the information of what the bond originator had actually submitted to the home loan applications team, she had understated my expenses. Basically, she had said there was things that she said I don't buy groceries, I've got absolutely no entertainment. So she had actually worked out this application so that the machine pushes out, or the system pushes out, an approval. So it's very important that if you know you can't afford that home loan, rather stay away from it. If you now need to get bond originators, you need to get the guys from SA Home Loans or Uber or whichever company, to go to the banks and fight for you to get a home loan. Really, I would be very wary of that kind of situation. But there are instances where banks do not undermine, but they classify us, and they see a risk when it comes to us, especially when you are young, when you are black. There's an assumption that and maybe judging from your credit history, they see you as high risk. And I'm not saying that the banks are racist, but there are instances where we do get classified by the banks, and automatically they push out certain, similar results in terms of home loans. So it's very important that you're very careful of what it is that you do when you're going to the bank and asking for a home loan. Make sure that you can actually afford more than what you need. I always say, if the calculator says to you can afford a house of 800,000 rand, rather go and look for a house of 600,000 rand, so that you guarantee that you actually do get a bond approval from the banks. Now that's one thing that's really going to be important. The other thing that you need to also keep in mind is that once your home loan gets granted and you accept the home loan, there is a bond registration fee that you're going to pay. There is a bond registration fee that you're going to pay. So on top of all the lawyer fees that you're currently paying when you are, registering for a house, or transfer duties, if there is a transfer duty, transfer costs, you're also going to pay bond registration. And usually the banks have their own lawyers who do the bond registration. So it's important that you also keep in mind that there might be an additional fee. There's also a fee called an initiation fee. Sometimes some banks allow you to add the initiation fee as part of the actual loan, or you need to pay an additional amount of money for the initiation fee. So please, when you are looking into getting a home loan, do remember these types of costs. Another thing you need to remember is that the title deed then currently sits with the bank up until the day that you actually finish off and settle this bond. Then they will transfer the title deed into your name. That's why you get sometimes people say you don't own your house, the banks own your house, whatever, to try and discourage people from getting homes with a home loan. Guys, you know what? The reality is that we can't all buy things cash. So some of us will need to get a bond. I myself have managed to buy 2 investment apartments cash, but my house I needed to bond because the amount of money that was required I did not have at the time. I put a really, really sizable deposit down, but the reality is that I couldn't cough up the amount of money I needed to cough up cash for my house. So a portion of it was bonded. And that's the reality of life, is that we're not all gifted, or we're not all blessed in the same way. So some of us are going to need home loans for us to be able to purchase our properties. So don't discourage people by telling them because you don't own your house up until the day you settle it, the bank owns it. Yes, granted, but I'm in a partnership with the bank, and once I have settled my home loan, yes, the title deed will then be put into my name. But at the moment, I am paying for it. And if I'm actively paying for it and my bond is up to date, then I do at some level, at some percentage, own a little bit of my house. So it's very important. Yes, granted, if you stop paying, the bank will repossess the house and they will auction it. That's a fact, and it's a fact we cannot run away from. So it's also something that you need to look at. But the one thing that people always get caught out with is that you should not be trying to acquire any more debt once you have gotten your home loan approval and the actual transfer from the previous owner has not been completed, because a bank has every right to pull and rescind, whatever that English word is, rescind the home loan approval if you do go and overcommit yourself with additional debt. So it's very important that you don't do that. Don't go out and get a new car to celebrate your new house. Oh my gosh, my bond got approved, so I'm going to go get myself a new car to match my new house. Don't do that, because if you do not have enough disposable income, the bank will take back their loan. So it's very important that you really, really remember these things. Another thing that can happen is that the valuation of the house, we've spoken about this. Once you get an approval, the bank pushes out an approval, the system pushes out an approval, the bank then has to go out and do a valuation of the house. If the seller has overvalued the house and you are paying they're expecting 1.3 million from you, and the bank says, nah, my friend, this house actually is only worth R1 million, the bank will not push out, will also again take back that approval, and it's technically you did not get an approval because that means the house is overvalued by the person that's actually selling it. So that's also something that you need to be really careful of, especially when you are the seller. Don't overvalue your house. Yes, try get the best deal as possible, but do not overvalue your house, or else the bank is not going to grant anyone a home loan, and you're going to have to wait for the cash buyers, and they are far and afield, so it's not that easy to get a cash buyer. The other thing that I want people to be very cautious. That happened with me with one of the green banks, the smaller green bank. They didn't want to give me a home loan or even consider without the NHBRC, I think, certificate. I can't really remember the actual acronym, but basically, especially for new developments that are less than 5 years old, there needs to be a level of, a compliance. So there is an HBRC certificate that needs to be granted, and you need to show the bank that here's a certificate. Sometimes some of them ask for even a gas certificate, they ask for a wood certificate, they'll ask you for all sorts of certificate of the house to know why they're paying a certain amount of money for this house, and to know the house is in compliance with then it's one of the councils that oversees buildings that are get built. So basically, they'll come in and say, okay, you've built according to the plans, it's a safe building, you've got the right amount of sanitation and all that stuff. So it's also important that you make sure that that certificate is there if a bank is going to need it. So that is your home loan. Make sure that you are ready with your installments in terms of your home loan, because your home loan will not kick in immediately when you do get it granted or approved and you actually accept the home. Because remember, the other thing is that you have a right to accept or reject a home loan. But if you have signed an OTP and the suspensive clause says that this deal is based on the suspensive clause being fulfilled, and it only will be fulfilled once there is a bank that's willing to give you the home loan, you actually do not really have a right to reject that offer, dependent on what the conditions are. Hence why we say make your alterations in the OTP, saying be specific about which bank you want to give you the home loan. Be specific about the interest rate that you are looking for. So put in specifics so that you don't find yourself stuck in a situation where you must accept a home loan that might not be beneficial for you in the long run. For example, a home loan that I was granted 30 years at a very high interest rate, I end up paying more than triple the amount of loan that was received. So it's very important that you put in your own conditions in terms of the OTP, so that you can get what it is that you are looking for. For any other questions in terms of home loan, hit me up. But remember that if it's a question where I gotta now sit down and work it out, baby girl, then you know how it works. It's not gonna work like that. I've given you the information. Please go out and find more information in terms of the home buying process. It really is an interesting process once you get into it, and you'd rather have the advantage of knowing other than not knowing. Oh, one last thing. Remember that when you go into a home loan agreement with a bank, it's basically a contract. When they give you a certain interest rate, right, they have calculated how much profit they're going to make from your interest rate, from the amount of money they charge you for borrowing the money. That's basically what interest is. When they talk about, we gave her prime plus 2 or prime minus 2, it's basically saying how much are we charging you for the money that we're currently borrowing you so that you can purchase your house. And basically what the interest rate then basically means is that that's how much money they've calculated in terms of their profit, right, from this deal with you. Now, if you do settle your house faster than the required amount of time, which is usually 20 years, if you settle it, there might be a penalty that you're going to pay. It's at the discretion of the bank. Sometimes it's worked out in terms of how many years are you premature in terms of settling of your bond. So they've got a formula that they use. Find out from your bank what the formula is. Find out what is the settlement amount from your home loan, so that when you do settle, you need to then weigh your options. And I always say to people, try and get an access bond account. What it means that you can basically just keep adding money. I always take all my money that I've got and I put in my access bond account to lower the interest that the bank charges me in terms of my bond, so that I get charged a lower interest and it looks like I'm actually finishing my bond as quickly as possible. But what I'm doing is basically creating my own money, so that when I now want to go and buy a car, let's say after 5 years into my bond, I can borrow myself money at a lower interest rate. Because remember, interest rates for houses or property are lower than interest rates for cars, interest rates for personal loans, interest rates for emergency loans, whatever loans, other loans. As a matter of fact, the home loan is probably one of the most lowest interest. So it's cheap money basically. But it can only become cheap money when you actually input additional money into your bond. So if you do have an access home loan, use that bond account. And maybe if you do settle, keep it open. Service it. Keep it open. But what it allows you is for you to use. We don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years. Interest rates could spike up. They could lower. So it's very important for you to kind of weigh your options and understand how it actually works. Mwah. Follow me on Financial Literacy with Nicolette Mashile. You can also find me on Twitter at I'm Coco Mash, or on Instagram at Nicolette Mashile. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And my website is nicolettem.com.